tour. I'm very delighted that Dr. Vorano is here to fill in some of the aspects of this very impressive collection. The lights are very dim in this room because the works are 50 years old. They're very, very fragile. And these are imposed by the Canadian Museum of History. So if you're going to complain, you can complain to them, or you can complain to me, and then I'll tell the Canadian Museum of History. But the light levels will adjust at some point. So without further ado, I'm happy to turn it over to Dr. Vorano.
Thank you very much, Mary. And I want to say, if you have any questions, please just ask me and call me Norman, please. So this exhibition, I was the curator for this exhibition, but I feel the word curator is not quite the right word. I was more of an organizer because there were so many people involved, and the selections of the artwork that you see were not entirely mine. They had to do with the people that we collaborated with, what they chose to speak about, and the works that fascinated them. I just kind of organized all of this. So where to begin with this story? I think the best way to begin is in the 1950s with the man Terry Ryan. Terry Ryan, some of you may know him. He was an artist and an arts administrator, and he worked in the community of Cape Dorset for about 35 years or so. He passed away in 2017. And he went to art school in the 1950s and wanted to work in the arts after that. He saw, like many Canadians did, this kind of phenomenon taking over of Inuit art in the 1950s. Back then it was really carvings and the like. And he wanted to work in the north. He actually worked in the high Arctic for a couple years in a meteorological station in the late 1950s. And he wanted to get back to work in the arts there. And he did that. He ended up he was hired by the Cape Dorset Cooperative. So in 1960 to administer and manage their print and art program, which was, of course, a world famous thing. And that's quite remarkable because that makes Terry Ryan the first white person to be hired by an Inuit-owned corporation in Canada. And he held that job for 35 years or so. But in 1963, like many people, he saw that the Inuit world in the Arctic was transforming dramatically. And he wanted to go to communities that didn't have an active arts program, and encourage people to make drawings, to see what they would draw, what they would choose to record. In fact, he was already finding that in Cape Dorset, some of the artists were making artworks that they thought would sell to outsiders, and he kind of wanted to step around that. So he went up to a few communities in the North Baffin region. If you imagine Baffin Island, which is that big bean-like island right at the top of Canada, that's where he went. And he went and so in 1964, he flew up to Clyde River, and then he took a dog team from Clyde River to Pond Inlet, and that's over 400 kilometers. So it took him a couple weeks. He had a team of people, of Inuit guides, and it was a tough ride. And then in Pond Inlet, he went on to Arctic Bay, which is another couple hundred kilometers to the west. And then he retraced his steps back. And it took him a few months to do that in the early of 1964. And on the way in, he simply handed out paper and pencil to people that he would encounter. And he would encourage them to draw what or how they liked. And people did that. And in the end, and he promised, the only thing that he promised he would do was buy up all the drawings on his way back. And he did that. At the end of his trip, he amassed about 1,860 drawings. So what we see right here are just 50 artworks of a collection of a possible 1,840, actually. That's what they ended up with. So it's a very big collection, and what you see here only just scratches the surface of this collection.